if you want to give us $8,500 specifically for Brandon O'Brien's Polar Bear Plunge charity, he will do it. Welcome to the Skiffy and Fanny Show, live at Capricon in a hotel room that is oddly shaped.
It's not Euclidean, but we are ready to talk to you.
Is that your tagline?
Yeah.
Sweet, you get 9 points.
Hopefully the geometry will not drive us mad, or any madder than we are already. I'm Trish.
I'm Sean.
I'm Paul.
I'm Brandon.
And we're just gonna talk about Capricon because that's where we're at. There are 4 of us who have somehow magically ended up in the same place.
Yay! It was not even planned, listeners.
Well,
no,
I mean,
half planned.
One quarter of it was planned.
One quarter of it took a lot of planning.
Yes.
Yeah, 1 quarter definitely was already going to be here to begin with, and then another quarter got to be here reasonably late.
The quarter that planned to be here planned for another quarter to be here with his own hard work, for which I am very grateful.
I didn't really work that hard. Don't give me that much credit. I'll take like 13% credit.
What is it with these odd numbers all the time? 9
I'm sorry.
points.
13.86.
There you go.
There you go.
Is that better? It's an even number now. You can divide it by 2.
Keep going, Sean.
I believe that's a hole that's a shovel you're holding. You should get rid of the shuttle bubble.
No, I like shovels and holes. Anyway, so we're going to react a little bit to the experience at Capricon.
Mm-hmm.
I was part of the programming team, so some of what's on the program is my fault, and some of it is not my fault, and if you didn't like something, it definitely wasn't my fault. And then Brandon has previously been guest of honor here.
Mm-hmm. I was guest of honor at what would have been Capricon 41, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, and Did you moderate the guest of honor panel?
This year, yes, I did.
So
because I'm not this year's guest of honor. I'm the only person on the panel who's not this year's guest of honor. It only stood to reason.
Yeah, and we managed to raise money so you could attend, which is a big deal because you've never actually been to Capricon.
You've been trying to get me to come to Capricon for quite some time now, and every time I want to be here physically, it has not materialized.
Yeah, it turns out it's kind of complicated to get to Chicago from Trinidad.
Yeah, turns out it's hell.
Isn't your return trip going through, like, Panama or something?
Yes, I'm going to be in Panama for 6.5 hours when I go.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's fun. You could have fun there.
I didn't even know there was an international airport in Panama.
Of course there is. Literally any flight out of Panama would be international, Paul.
I mean, how do you think that people get to Panama, Paul?
You just think like every person goes to Panama on a boat.
Through the Panama Canal.
Through the canal. And then just as they're going through, they just jump off.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I thought.
I thought you were the geography expert here, Paul.
Okay.
So a question that I have, because again, this is the second time that I've been at Capricon and the first time that I've been at Capricon physically. How many times has everyone else here been to Capricon physically? I'll start with Sean because I'm sure the question is exactly 43.
No, I've definitely not. I'm not 43 years old. So it's impossible for me to have been here.
I thought you were immortal, sorry.
No, that's Paul. Paul's an immortal. He's 336,000 years old according to last geological records. Yeah. I can't remember my first Capricon. It was definitely in the 30s. Maybe 33, 34, maybe 35. I'm not sure. I was in Florida, so it's at least 5 years ago when I first started coming. And I think I came here 2 years in a row from Florida, and then 5 years since.
What drew you here from Florida, since you had no idea at the time you were going to be moving up to the northwest?
Yeah, because I didn't live here, and so it'd be a flight and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so I attended NASFIC in Puerto Rico when it was there, and Tammy Coxon, who is also programming here, was working programming there, and basically asked if I'd be interested in coming out to this, and I mean, I didn't say no because it's a convention. They invited me to come to a convention. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go. So that's originally how it started, and then Tammy has been slowly working to make me into a programming person, which I will say I wasn't that great this year, but yeah, I've got a lot of learning to do about running programming, let me tell you. And it's not easy work, so be kind to people. It's a lot of work. But yeah, so that's how it all started for me. And I'm guessing, Trish and Paul, this is your first Capricon.
Yes.
Although you've tried to get me to come, I've never come before now.
Which is weird because it was virtual, at least one full-time, and then hybrid for another. You could have attended those.
I could have attended. I failed.
No, that's not a failure.
Just like my inarticulation regarding Panama and international flights, I failed.
Well, I mean, it's an easy mistake to make.
What I meant is I didn't know there was any transiting international flights through Panama. Not
you didn't know it was a hub.
It was a hub. Thank you. That's the word we're looking for.
Right.
I still have a geography fail, though, so I get negative 304,902 points.
Well, since I'm the one that dispenses points, that's actually going to be a positive number. So congratulations, Paul. You get over 300,000 points added to your total, which you can use at the gift shop at the end of this talk.
We can spend our Sean points?
Yeah, but
on
for like
one object?
Yeah, so on one of those like little erasers you put on like a pencil is 2 trillion points.
Okay.
This feels like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy currency.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's all I can tell you. And if you want a teddy bear, I mean, you basically have to collect enough points that even the richest person on the planet is jealous.
So you're saying the heat death of the universe will come, you still won't have enough points?
I'm not saying that.
I think you implied it.
Anyway.
I mean, again, we're getting six figures worth of points very easily. So, yeah, it's possible.
Easy come, easy go.
Exactly. Okay, so I want to start with the 2 newbies, because y'all are hardcore noobs to this thing. You've been to many conventions. What did you think of Capricon?
I've enjoyed the programming. I don't know many people here besides the 2 of you. I did see an author I know on Twitter, but didn't have a chance to talk to him.
Okay.
I know there's a couple of people who could pick me out of a lineup possibly, but I've not seen them at all. It feels weird to go to a Capricon. Feels like a relatively smallish con, science fiction con. It's not a gigantic world con, listeners. It's much more modest in its scale. I mean, but on the other hand, it's not 4th Street Fantasy, which has one room and everybody. So it's more like a Diversicon or a Minnesotan Mars Con in size. I think it's maybe I'd have to actually look at numbers to see, but it kind of makes me think of as a more regular science fiction version of ReaderCon in terms of size. ReaderCon's much more literarily focused. This is more generally science fiction focused. This is a lot of me filling up walls of words to actually get to the actual answers to the question. I've enjoyed the panels I've been on. I did miss Thursday and most of Friday, sadly. So my experience has been a little truncated, but I've gotten a sense of what Capricon is and what their theme and ethos is, the capricious goat, and
the capricious goat,
the capricious goat, and I'm going to leave some more specifics to Trish because Trish and I have spent most of the con running around things together, so I'm going to hand it over to Trish.
Go on, Trish. What do you got for us?
Well, for what is a mainly smallish con compared to some of the ones I've been to lately, Gen Con and World Con. It seems to have been well organized. I'm pleased with the programming tracks. There have been quite a few time slots when there were several things that I was interested in and had to make choices, and it's good, to feel like there's a lot going on here. Some really nice lively discussions between the panelists, good moderation, it seemed like. The ones that encouraged audience participation have had a lot of audience participation, so that's felt very engaging and very pleasant. Really, my only complaint is that a couple of the rooms have had very bad lighting.
Yeah.
And, one of them had lights that kept flickering on and off, and they had to fight to try to get enough light for the artists to illuminate their stuff. And another room had a really low, glittery chandelier that hurt my eyes, and I had to close my eyes to listen to the panel.
Wow.
But that's my only complaint, and that's obviously on the hotel, not on the con.
That's still something that maybe after the con, letting the con know, because I think, I don't know if we're still in this space next year, but if it's hurting your eyes, like imagine somebody who's got like a migraine disorder or something of that, that might be a thing where maybe that's a warning they need to put on next time. So maybe that's a thing to send a quick email. Not as a, like, I hated the con, but just being like, hey, I loved it, but like these little things, maybe you could look into it for next time. So that's
especially
really good
because,
stuff.
The Sheraton Grand Chicago Riverwalk, where Capricon is presently being held, this is the first time that it's been in this hotel.
This is the second time. Yeah, and I don't know how long the contract is. I have to ask. But obviously every convention has a certain period contract they put with a hotel.
Yes.
Usually it's for several years unless it's like an emergency thing like with the Omni for Discon, which I'm pretty sure like in that case like they were like, yeah, we'll let you be in here. Or like we'll work on moves, but others usually do multi-year contracts. So So like if you don't like this space, we may be stuck here for a little bit. But those are things that maybe the hotel like can take a chandelier down or do something to it, like put something around it to, because nobody wants to like give someone a migraine at a convention. So yeah, Brandon, what about you? What did you think?
I like the hotel. I have a similar minor complaint about some of the lighting in this space because I was at a panel where the lights just suddenly dimmed.
Yes.
Out of nowhere, and I was like, did somebody do that, or did something happen to the lights? And I wasn't sure.
It wasn't even the horror and role-playing panel, which would have been thematic.
Right? But other than that, I think this hotel is actually very nice. I'm very glad to actually be physically here because I actually really like Capricon's programming for the most part is like very engaging for me. I didn't watch as many panels as I was on, but that's because I was on a lot of panels. But all of the panels that I've done so far were very, very stimulating. I'm really jazzed by the theme, and I'm very impressed by you and Tammy for finding so much.
Mostly Tammy.
I'm sure mostly Tammy.
Don't
not to sell you short, but
Tammy, no. Yeah, mostly Tammy
is
this year.
like that.
Yeah.
But like that you constructed so many panels that are so tightly linked to the theme for this year's Capricon, which is the afterlife. Eternity awaits.
Yeah, I was just to say, like, maybe we should actually tell the theme because listeners are going to have a clue.
So there's a whole track of items that are particular to the afterlife. A lot of those items were suggested by people working the con or other folks suggesting things. So it was more like a brainstorming effort on that part.
Yeah.
And it was
But I mean, Capricon is very good at brainstorming because you have an entire section of the website dedicated to a very robust suggestions section for panels, which is very good. Especially because it also just funnels back into organizing scheduling very easily. But also, there is not a lot of... I would have assumed there wasn't a lot of things that you could say about the afterlife. And then it was like, oh... that's actually very obvious. Why didn't I think of that as well? So I'm very... I was very engaged by a lot of the content that I've seen and been on. You put me on the Good Place, panel about the Good Place, so that was very good. Thank you for that. I wouldn't have even thought about... it didn't even occur to me, hey, I've seen the Good Place. That's something that should happen here.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've I enjoyed the content when I was attending virtually a couple of years ago. I enjoy the content now. I would like more medium-sized cons like this to be as considerate about its content as this is, because this was actually really cool.
Yeah. Well, I am taking all this feedback because I'm totally biased.
You are totally biased. It is weird, Tron, because I had to do some math, because Trish and I were talking about this before. This is like the first con since 2016 that I've not had any programming. I've not done any panels for.
Well, there's this great thing, Paul, where maybe if you plan earlier that you're going to come, I can put you on things that are suitable for your brand of super dork.
Yes, well, we can talk about that next year, but it's just a different, odd experience for me not to have any things like, oh, I have to be at my 3 p.m. panel for X. I mean, I'm saying, oh, okay, I'm saying I'm kind of missing. I'm missing being on panels, but on the other hand, it's been a freeing in sort of way that I've had my schedule tiring myself. But on the other hand, it's felt a little like, but what about my programming this weekend? Oh, wait, I don't have any program this weekend. That's weird and strange.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, congratulations on having this feeling. You will be stuck with it for the rest of your life now.
Wow. Wait, you say I'm not going to be on panels anymore?
Not just the rest of the year.
Wow.
No. Paul will definitely be on panel. There'll be some weird panel we can stick him on. We should do the guessing game. The book guessing game at some point.
Live at Capricon. Oh,
I think
God,
that'd be
help
really
us all.
fun. We could make it like you and one other person trying to guess, and then if you guys can't guess it, the audience gets to guess.
Ooh.
And then we'll see who wins, audience versus... Yeah, we could do that. That'd be a really fun panel. I think it could be a little game show.
There's some feedback for you can bring to Tammy.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest it for next year.
But would you do that from page 1 or from page 119?
I always do it from page 1, unless from page 1 it gives it away a little bit too much. But yeah, usually from page 1 to see if somebody can figure out from the opening 2 to 3 sentences who the writer is and which book. Because Paul is weird, he can detect these things.
Because Paul has read every book since the dawn of time.
I mean, that is true, yeah. So for folks that don't know, Paul has in fact been reading since the first written text was put down on a stone tablet. So, were you there when Moses got the little commandments? Did you help him read because he was illiterate?
The little commandments.
The little commandments. No, I wasn't there for that. I wasn't there for that, but... I did give editorial suggestions to the Babylonian priestess, who is the first known author in history.
Oh, Tabitha?
Yeah, there's the Babylonian priestess, I can't pronounce her name, by 3000 BC. We found tablets by her basically writing hymns to the gods and other stuff about her father. So she's the oldest known author is a woman. Did you know that, listeners? Fun fact! The oldest known author we know in history is a woman.
Yeah, her name's Tabitha. She works in the Starbucks in the hotel.
Oh my
Another
God.
immortal.
Yeah. There are a few of you. Yeah.
I'm going to have to go to Starbucks now.
Yeah, there you go.
Reunited.
Anyways, yeah, so I've been to this con a lot. I will say that we are a little smaller than we would normally be, but this is in large part because of COVID. And we're in a location, before we used to be in Wheeling, so that location has a kind of more of a history of being at that location, and certainly some people who are regular Capricon goers prefer that location.
I know Wheeling, West Virginia. I assume that's not what you're talking about.
No, Wheeling just outside, out in the suburbs. Yeah, so, I mean, and that location's fine. The biggest problem with that location is it's not really near anything. So if you want to go eat somewhere not on site, you're either going to walk a bit or you're going to have to drive somewhere. Whereas here, you can do a little bit of walking, but it doesn't take that long to get to, 10 different restaurants. Mm-hmm. It's just the downside of being down here is it's so damn expensive because it's Chicago.
Hey, it's also February in Chicago, and our two more warm weather friends... I've not been entirely enthused with the idea that 40 degrees in Chicago is a warm day.
Well, I mean, Brandon's going to be fine when we do a convention in Bemidji. in February, right?
I
think
believe you.
You want to come?
I probably still want to come, but I won't enjoy it.
Got it. We'll take you cross-country skiing.
No, you won't. Mm-mm.
My camera is ready.
The cold is not fun. I don't get... I saw someone in the hotel in shorts yesterday. I don't get it. Y'all are weird.
I should wear shorts.
You have to understand, in the far north, when it gets above freezing, people go nuts for joy because, it's above freezing.
Yeah.
That's why you saw the shorts.
Yeah.
I mean, there are Minnesotans, not me. I don't have an outdoor grill, who will grill once the temperature cracks freezing.
Mm.
Oh,
See what fun you could have, Brendan?
No, it's not. I'm beginning to think y'all are being held hostage by the snow. That this is just
I love the cold. I went out in a polo like this and just pants the other day and went for a walk to the store. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was fine.
No, Sean had to buy me a sweatshirt.
I know.
Listeners.
Because
without
who
it,
didn't bring
I would
one?
have died.
Yeah, who didn't bring one?
I didn't expect it to be so cold. I thought
You...
Note to listeners, Chicago in winter, cold.
Yeah, but
Maybe
also...
not as cold as Minnesota.
But so
Not
cold
yet.
enough.
I will acknowledge it was an error on my part. I thought we were on the edge of winter. That I would have just dodged it.
The edge of winter. Oh, you sweet summer child.
This is new to me. I'm sorry.
So
but
what
this
we
is
have
expanding
learned
experiences.
is when it comes to traveling north, treat it as though you're in fact traveling north.
On the other hand, I'm going to take Brandon's shame off and direct it to me. Sean, tell the listeners about my dressing choices in Vietnam.
Oh yeah, you wore what you always wear, which is pants, button-down shirts,
long pants,
long sleeves sometimes.
In Vietnam.
And I would not recommend this by any stretch of the imagination because it's warm, and your nether bits get warm.
My nether bits only had one function in Vietnam.
Yes, sweating and peeing.
Dear God!
Why are we talking so much about your nether bits? It's so
You
weird.
brought them up.
I didn't remember doing that.
I'm just trying
Transitioning very quickly.
Wow, let's talk more about programming.
to programming.
So there was a panel called Paul's Nether Bits.
No,
that was
No,
on.
there was
Sean.
not. False facts.
Anyway, so what was your favorite item?
Me?
Programming. Yeah, we'll go with you.
I mean, this is actually kind of easy for me. So Sean, you know that ever since my first convention, Worldcon 75 in Helsinki, I've been doing this thing where if people will let me, I will host an open mic because that's kind of fun.
Brandon O'Brien's Magical Open Mic Night.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome for the title.
Thank you very much.
Wait a minute. Stop for a second. That was your first ever convention?
Yeah, my first.
Because when we met, I thought it was just like your first Worldcon. I didn't realize it was your first convention.
Yeah, I didn't know that these things existed until
I just thought it was your first Worldcon when we met. Wow.
So that was very cool. And it was a wonderful experience. And it's I want to keep doing this. It's fun to see people share a story that they like or a story that they're working on for the very first time. So I've been doing that for a while. And when I was invited to be guest of honor virtually for Capricon 41, I was like, yeah, this is also a wonderful opportunity to do the thing, albeit virtually. Yep. And that also went well. So when you asked me if I wanted to come this year, I was like, should I do the thing? And it didn't cross my mind at all. I totally forgot to do programming stuff until Sean checked with me the weeks before we were about to fly. And then Tammy was like, do you want to do a special open mic for the thing? And I was like, yeah, okay, what do we mean by that? And what Tammy meant was the Ghost Story Circle open mic. which I was particularly nervous about because I'm not like a campfire ghost stories person because I live in the tropics where I don't need to light campfires in order to be warm. But like, yeah, that's not a cultural thing in Trinidad. Well, at least not in the exact same cultural framework. So I didn't know how it was going to work, but I was eager to make the thing happen because I still wanted to just hear people read. And it went just as well as every other open mic. It was a lovely experience. People, like, a couple of people read stories that they've heard someone else read, or their favorite horror short story from a book that they've read. A couple of people told stories that they insisted were true, which troubles me.
Some of them in Chicago.
I am worried for some of these people. One of those stories in particular was a young cosplayer told a story about sharing an apartment with a roommate, and the apartment was potentially haunted, and everything that they were saying was like, you almost died. Why is there more to the story after you almost died? You should have left a long time ago. But that was actually a lot of fun for me. I like doing that. I'm very glad that I got to do a themed thing, essentially. Yeah. And suffice it to say, if Capricon ever wants me to do an open mic again, the answer is obviously yes.
Great, so we just have to figure out how to get you every single time.
Every single time,
gotcha.
Yes.
I mean, even I stumbled through a story, listeners.
That's true. You did tell a story.
Well, I didn't even realize you were in the room.
Weren't you sitting right to the right?
I'm literally sitting next to you.
I'm joking.
Wow.
I'm joking. You gave me grief. You gave me grief because I couldn't get your computer to work with the HDMI
all right, yes.
thing.
Sean had a digital campfire on his laptop that we were going to put on a projector screen, and nobody knew where it was on the computer.
No, it's not that. They didn't have the connector. There was supposed to be someone from tech there to provide a connector. Nobody from tech, I guess, either they weren't there or there was miscommunication, and they were there and they didn't know who they were supposed to. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean, it was just like a kind of shtick.
It would have been a nice flourish, but it wasn't necessary.
Yeah, I mean, the thing wouldn't have been, it's not a make or break thing.
I mean, we could have put some paper in a wastebasket and lit it on fire, but that would be ill-advised.
Also
that
illegal.
That would have been against codes.
Yeah, we probably would get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would not recommend that, Brandon, as a person not from this country.
I mean, I guess everyone could have called up a campfire on YouTube on their phone.
Put it on their phone.
That would
have been fun. Oh, Trish, what about you? What's a favorite panel that you've seen so far?
My favorite was Flashfic meets Scribble Art.
Okay.
And that was a very entertaining panel with 3 writers and 3 artists. Okay. And they asked the audience for a variety of prompts, and the writers and artists were supposed to incorporate at least 4 of 6 prompts into their stories and or art. And so they did 2 rounds of prompts and creations, and read them and showed the art, and kind of tried to figure out which art, without people seeing each other's stuff as they worked, which art randomly matched best with the stories, and also while everyone was writing and drawing, the audience, if they wished, could also create their own art or flash fic, and some of that got shown after the prose, and some of them did readings. And,
like Trish.
Right. I read one of my 2 poems, the flash poems that I wrote, and I'll read one of them here now if you want.
Yes.
Go for it.
Okay.
Trish is going to acquire a poem from the tome of Trishness.
I also wrote a flash fic.
You wrote a flash fic?
Yeah.
Is it about
I wrote 2, but the second one's better than the first.
Okay. Is it about your time in Ethiopia?
No, it was based on the prompts that we did.
So these were the this one was based on the prompts: Big Dumb Object, Current Time, Kelpie, Longing, Standoff, and Tesla. So,
Okay.
Tesla, the champion of AC, broadcasts energy over the sea. A big dumb object appears in the sky, apparently drawn by this EM pulse cry. Humanity sends a mission to space to open dialogue with this new race, but the BDO remains silent and still, looming above, and none knows its will. Is it waiting for some Part 2 handoff? How can humanity solve this standoff? A connection with others may be futile longing, but we'll keep seeking a way of belonging.
Nice.
Yay! That's very fun, Trish.
Thank you.
Cool. So you got to write poems.
Yeah, I wrote 2 poems. I actually read the other one at the thing, but not this one. So this is my
first reading of it.
First reading
Oh,
of it.
it was very fun. It reminded me of a story that I read for the sci-fi class, the title of which I can't remember, where aliens come to Earth, and it's about families that are obsessed with the aliens, but claiming they're not obsessed, even though they have a whole bookshelf that's just for how to understand the aliens. It's about a guy who runs a used car, or a car garage in the UK, trying to basically get this alien to keep coming back, and he's not fixing his car. But because he doesn't understand, the aliens don't understand, like, they're not into the human nonsense. They're just, like, very direct. It's a really interesting story about, like, obsession with the other. Yeah. I'll have to find it. It's in the big book by the Vandermeers, so it's well worth the read, I think. I just can't remember the title at the moment. So, but anyway, that's what you reminded me of when you had the aliens. So, cool. All right, so we got Trish and Brandon. Paul, what about you? Favorite panel?
I did really like that part. As like I said before, I actually wrote flash fic and read one of the flash fics. The other thing I really liked was last evening's artist showdown.
Oh.
Where they basically had like these brackets of artists from the con basically drawing 2 prompts on this giant piece of paper, and basically have the audience decide who would win each round, basically going to the finale where the artist guest star went up against the winner. It got more and more progressively crazy with the prompts and with the arts as things went on. I really enjoyed them bringing the art to life at such short and well drawn notice. It's like it was. Trish was there with me. What's that?
Sorry. Most of the prompts had something to do with the con's theme of the afterlife. For instance, psychopomp and circumstance.
Fifth Horseman of the Apocalypse and all this other fun stuff. So yeah, so it was a and yes, the capricious goat made an appearance on the artist showdown. So I really
nice.
So I really appreciated that the theme and the artist just like drawing to large and quick command. It was really entertaining. It gave me a good sense of what this con is all about.
Sorry.
What did I do?
So you were talking about this great thing, and I look over at Brandon, and it like.
I was resisting the urge to cough because I didn't want to cough.
Oh, okay. It looked like you reminded me of my grandpa, like who would just like he'd be asleep, but he wasn't really asleep, and so like he'd put tennis on, and if you tried to change the channel, he'd like pop awake. He'd be like, "I was watching that," even though it's clear he wasn't watching it. And so you were just like the way your face was, and you were just like with for the listeners at home, gently rubbing your beard, and I was like, "Is he asleep?"
I have not.
He is not asleep.
Okay.
What about you?
What about you?
Well, the open mic was really cool. There was also a really interesting Good Place panel, but I had to like close my ears a few times because I am behind on that show, and I didn't want to be spoiled.
Wow.
I am 2.5 seasons in, so I have.
Oh yeah, so you have a season and a half to go.
Yeah, I got time here, so yeah, so I didn't want to be, ruined. But I thought that panel was very good. I was also on a panel on editing, which I thought was really great because it was actually kind of great about imparting tips and stuff to other people on how to approach editing their own fiction or finding editors or dealing with relationships with editors with two other lovely folks. And I thought that was just, I like those kind of panels because it actually becomes much more interactive with the audience and you're actually imparting something to them that's useful. So, why are you taking pictures of us, Paul?
Just it was fun.
You sure?
Yes.
Just making lots of clackety-clack noises.
It's
wow.
Make your editing harder.
I'm going to make it super extra loud just so people have to hear the clickety-clack. Yeah. And then I'm going to take a recording of Paul going,
I forgot to turn on the flash, so the picture's worthless.
That's fine. It's all right. It's all good. So I thought that was a really great panel. But those are tend to be some of my favorites anyway because I like the interaction more with the audience than just us at the top talking. Mm-hmm. I think that's a lot more interesting. Cool. So, yeah.
So, you were in programming. You were in programming second for the con.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the experience of preparing programming for a convention?
It's hard. And while I didn't do nearly as much this year as I did the previous year, and that's kind of on me of just being a bit overwhelmed.
You've had some other priorities.
Yeah, you have some other priorities.
Yeah, I mean, I got married, and I also ran a track at ShyCon. I'm tired and old. Yeah. Look, I will say that mostly it's wonderful. Capricon in general is pretty easy for programming in terms of once you get the people interested, the only issue is dealing with people's schedules, or when people who are potentially good for stuff, but who give you literally nothing to work with. And then you have to spend an hour Googling them, trying to figure it out, which I will just give you a word of advice. If there's a little box that says, please tell us why you would be a good fit. I know that some people don't like to give that information, but oh my God, it makes it very easy for me to go, this person would be a great fit. So overall though, I find the scheduling part to be mentally the most terrifying thing on earth. Because it's just lots of pieces and it's just hard to conceive of that many pieces. And when you get to bigger and bigger cons, that's just even more terrifying. I have no idea how the people at ShyCon manage that. That program's massive. So overall I like it. I'm going to keep trying to work in con spaces by doing this kind of thing. I don't think I'm going to go outside of programming because I think anything else involves too much people. And I don't know if I can handle it. But yeah, I'm going to stick to this thing. Yeah. It's good. Look, if you want to improve, want to make programming better, frankly, more people should try volunteering to help with programming. Even if all you're going to volunteer is brainstorming panel ideas. Every single convention I have worked for, I've worked for a World Fantasy, I've worked for a World Con. I kind of was in the DisCon, but I didn't really do a lot there. I kind of was watching, lurking. But they were very similar to ShyCon, and then Capricon is very similar, which is there's a brainstorming phase at the beginning. And if you're willing to kind of join the brainstorming team, you can come up with panel ideas. And if there's one that you really want to push, you think it's going to be valuable, you should, make a case for it. So
when is the theme of Capricon set?
That should, it's probably already set. I don't know it.
Okay.
But that will be announced at the, or it should be announced. It's normally announced at the closing ceremonies, which I will unfortunately miss. But yeah, so that's where you'll know. Last year, that's how we found out about the afterlife. It was announced by whoever was in charge of the con for that year. So in theory, that's when they were going to announce it. So I'm sure Tammy knows. I just haven't been privy to those conversations, partly because I like surprises. But yeah, so you'll find out soon.
Okay.
I will note that by the time this episode goes out, that information will already be public because it'll be on the website. But you all don't know at this present moment in the past. That will be weird because
wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we'll know. It could be very interesting, or it could be the worst theme imaginable.
Has it ever been before?
No.
Exactly.
No, I mean, there's certainly some themes that I guess people don't really like very much, or like didn't like pop. You know, I think the Afterlife has gone pretty well, but I think mostly because it's got us to think like about death and what death means on a lot of different levels. Like I was on a video game panel, Death in Video Games, and I was moderating it, but it was really interesting to get all these people to talk about like how death in video games has changed and what that does to our relationship in the real world to death. So I thought that was really interesting.
Did they bring up Hades or Vampire Survivors?
Vampire Survivors was mentioned, but Hades would talked about in more detail. Yeah, Vampire Survivors is a great game. Everybody should play it immediately. It's great.
I will take you at your word.
I've played it on my stream. You should watch my stream at 7 o'clock Tuesdays and Thursdays Central Time.
Nice plug there, Sean.
Alphabet Streams. Yeah, I play that sometimes. Yeah.
Nice.
It's a great game. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, well, it'll be interesting to see what next year brings. Conventions are in a pickle at the moment because things have not really settled with the COVID thing. In part because COVID has not actually settled, and in part because culturally there's a shift going on, and I don't think people quite know where the shift's taking us yet.
Yes, can I talk about a thing that's not Capricon related, but related to that?
Please do. Well, Brandon chokes to death. Whoa, please don't die.
I'm not dying. Oh my god.
As of this recording, maybe things will change, listeners. I'm hopeful they will because right now they're fracked. Last year at Gen Con, there was a strict masking and vaccination policy. You had to be vaccinated and you had to mask at Gen Con.
Same here.
Same here at Capricon.
But you mentioned this because now a thing has changed at Gen Con.
Right. So Gen Con this year, listeners, which I've raised my hand to be on the Writer Symposium again. I was on the Writer Symposium last year, very kindly invited. They've said, no, we're not going to enforce masking or vaccination. YOLO. Individual panels and stuff can suggest and ask people to, but you can't force anybody to vaccinate or mask.
Not only can you not force anyone to mask at an event, but they literally specified that if someone is being disruptive, you can ask Gen Con enforcers to have them removed from convention space. That is to imply that if you do insist that someone should wear their mask in an enclosed play area where only 4 people and a bag of dice are in this room, you can call
and get that person removed.
Yeah, for insisting that everyone
should fuck itself.
And it's
no.
Yeah.
I don't look. I get that we're in this point where, like, I mean, to some degree, like, our society's given up on fighting this. Really, I get it.
And everybody's tired.
But if it's bad enough that you're not going to have any kind of masking or any of that stuff, or even vaccination requirement, which, like, that's extra bullshit. That should be, like, the very least is vaccine requirement. But if you're going to make it to where people are not allowed to express their opinion about the fact that other people are not masking, now a punishable offense, you've just announced to the whole world, like, you don't give a shit that over 1 million Americans died from this thing. Yeah. You don't care.
And
like,
they're still dying.
And are still dying by the tens of thousands. And there's now worry. I don't mean to scare people who are going to hear this. I don't know what the news will be by the time this comes out. But there's now a new coronavirus strain that has scientists very worried because it's more deadly. And I don't know anything beyond that, but that was like what the headlines were saying. Again, it could turn out to be not really a big deal. Maybe the vaccines will handle it just as well as some of the others, whatever. But, like, we're in this weird spot where, like, people should be allowed to assert their position on masks. Like, I get maybe not being an asshole. Like, I understand that. But, like, if I tell you, like, hey, if you want to hang out in our group, you have to mask, and someone says, well, I'm reporting you, and you're getting you kicked out, and they actually kick people out, they can go fuck themselves. They can burn in a fire. That con can just die.
Yeah. Ultimately, if a con needs to care about 2 things, among many others. Yeah. One is safety, obviously. And the other is the value of its community. By which
Yeah.
I mean, if you make decisions that are essentially insisting that immunocompromised and other disabled persons
May not
can't
attend.
come.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, not that it's their choice to come or not, but that you are essentially telling them they are not welcome.
You're basically deliberately excluding them.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
kind of sucky, and you kind of have to take responsibility for that. And I do think that, like, the particularly upsetting thing about it is, again, I am the only non-American in this room, but y'all's president, Joe Biden, made a public statement that essentially qualifies the coronavirus pandemic as over.
Yes,
which
as
it isn't.
of May 11th will be the official end of the virus.
Yeah,
according to
well, but
Fair.
he's already had COVID. He fucking knows it's not over.
Yeah, like,
Anyway,
we are,
grumpy.
again, as you say, we're in this position where people believe that the thing is over, not
or
because
want
they're
it to
actually
be open and can just like force it.
Yeah.
Like if we just say it's like Tinkerbell and the clapping Tinkerbell back. Like if we clap hard enough, coronavirus will disappear and we could go back to normal, which just means, of course,
Till
Yeah.
the next
Yeah.
whatever.
Until
If
the next
there
one.
is a way that we go back to normal, it's being patient and not being ruinous to our own betterment. But
I mean, like, the vaccine requirement, I just don't understand why you wouldn't require that. Like,
yeah,
it's such a
And-
basic request, and if people don't want to do it, then they can't come.
I understand why I play devil's advocate. I understand why Gen
it's because
Con.
of the politics of Indiana?
Well, two reasons. One, the politics of Indiana, because
Yeah.
Indiana is a very red state, I think, as Trish and I were talking about the other day.
Yeah.
And also, two, Gen Con is freaking huge. It was a matter of huge logistics to get everybody checked their vaccination at Gen Con last year. But I mean, giant long lines.
Okay.
So
Right.
I think they just don't want to spend, and that must cost time, resources, money. And Gen Con figured the cheaper and better course is to YOLO and exclude immunocompromised
on the one
people
hand,
rather than go through that rigmarole.
on the one hand, that line was indeed very long. On the other hand, you know what it wasn't? Taking very long. That line was moving. That line moved quicker than shorter lines that you've seen at fast food restaurants.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what
That's
was it, like 60,000 people at Gen
Yeah.
Con?
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
moved that
I'm
line.
pretty sure the
Yeah.
day that I arrived at Gen Con last year and stood in that line, there were maybe 200 people in front of me. It barely took a half an hour.
Yeah. That's
If
not
that
bad.
much.
But I'll bet
I've
money
been
they
in
got.
supermarket
I'll
lines
bet
that
I'll
long.
bet money that lots of pardon my language on the podcast, shitbirds. Because like the thing I hated most about Gen Con, the lines for the vaccination. This is terrible. And they've taken that feedback and thought, oh, we just won't do it.
And the thing is, I'm sure there are a lot of people. Again, one of the real concerns about Gen Con being huge is I'm sure the convention doesn't want to lose the potential clientele of people who are essentially anti-vaxxers, don't believe in the concerns of the coronavirus
they
pandemic,
have-
but want to be a part of the gaming community and will essentially blacklist Gen Con as a result. But the consequence is, if people die at your convention, you lose those customers too.
Forever.
Trish?
But they had no problem getting a huge number of people to come to Gen Con last year with full mask and mask
Yeah.
requirements.
Yeah.
People came
So they weren't-
because.
Yeah, absolutely. I would not have come last year if they hadn't had that, and
Yeah.
I am not going this year because they dropped it.
Yeah, I
Hopefully
mean,
they will change their minds. But as of recording of this, they're being stubbornly stupid. There's discussions in.
I mean,
the
Well,
Bar
now,
Symposium
if
about
they
it.
changed their minds now, I wouldn't trust them not to change their minds again.
But we say all of these things to say, listeners, two things of vital importance. One, I am very grateful that conventions like Capricon are still attempting to keep people very safe.
Yes.
And two,
yeah.
it is imperative upon you, not because we want you to feel burdened or exhausted by this entire process, but because we want you to live and continue to enjoy these things, that you should attend conventions that have proper safety guidelines around coronavirus,
Yeah.
because we want you to continue to be able to attend
Yeah.
them in the future.
Yeah, support the behavior you want to see in the world by participating in that.
Yeah, and also because if you wear a mask in February, it keeps your face warm.
That's true.
That's
It
true.
does actually keep your face warm.
Mhm.
Small victories, yeah. So protect people. Protect everybody. Keep this community happy and healthy and safe. That's what I would say.
That's a positive message.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to close out because I think we turned this from Capricon's awesome to let's talk about COVID and masks.
It's my fault, listener.
Yeah. And there's
Capricon is awesome.
Capricon is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So, Paul, why don't you tell folks where folks can find you and your stuff? Go.
You can find me as Prince Justin, PrincejBStin on Twitter, on Mastodon. I have a website, princejustin.com. I write for Nerds of a Feather, Skiffy and Fanty, Core.com. You throw a rock on the internet, when you Google Prince Justin, you'll find something I've done. It's hard to miss me.
Yeah. Trish, what about you? Where can folks find you?
Well, still most easily on Twitter at P.E. Matson, but I'm also on Mastodon now, and I have a blog I have been updating a little more regularly. .blogspot.com. I guest on various podcasts in addition to Skiffy and Fanny, and my...
Yes, don't you have a Stargate podcast coming?
That is correct. We have recently revived our Stargate SG Fun podcast, and if we were anyway, that is back on. We had like half a dozen episodes in the can that we just never got around to editing. We're releasing those now, and we'll start recording soon. And hopefully even have some guests on.
Sweet. Brandon, what about you?
Hi, everybody. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, co-host a whole lot of other social media platforms at The Rising Tides. That's TITHES. I have a newsletter at brandonO'Brien.xyz. And I also GM stuff over at speculatorsf.com.
Awesome. And me, I'm at SeanDuke.net. Patreon.com/TheJoyFactory. You can find all my social media at my Linktree, which is linktree/SeanDuke. That's linktr.ee. And I'm on like everything from Mastodon to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I'm all
and alphabet streams.
And I was getting there.
Okay.
My good lord. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm also streaming games, and Paul is usually on as my talk guest, and occasionally Brandon is on, and I'm sure Trish will at some point stop being a moderator in my chat and come on to have a chat too. We chat and then we play games. We call it It's Raining Men when all the boys are on, because we don't currently have any non-men in the group.
So she's saying we need to get Trish on, is what you're saying.
Then I can't sing the song It's Raining Men.
That's
what we're hoping for, Sean.
One of my favorite things. Yeah, so you can find that on Twitch at Alphabet Streams. And then Skiffy and Fanty. You can find all of our things. SkiffyandFanty.com. We're on all of the podcast apps. Please give us a review, because if you don't, I'll cry. Do that. And do get our newsletter at SkiffyandFanty.com/newsletter. And if you'd like to let us know what you thought about this episode or past episodes or suggest a topic, etc., SkiffyandFanty.com/listener suggestions. And if you do that, you get exactly 47.3 points.
Oh my god. Do they get more points if they suggest a con that they would like us to go to if we've never been to it before?
I will give you an additional 0.1, so it's an even number divisible by 2.
Oh, okay.
Still worth it, listeners. If there's a con you want Skippy Fanny to come to, let us know.
Yeah, please do. Okay, so on that note, I would just note that we're all going to go up to the pool after this in the 20-degree weather outside.
The pool's indoor and heated.
But the building next door has a pool on the roof. We're going to that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
But we're supposed to do, what do they call that, Paul? We're like polar bear or whatever the
polar
thing?
Bear plunge.
Yeah, we're gonna do polar bear plunges.
No.
Nope.
I would pay good money for Brandon to do a polar bear plunge.
47 I would like to know how much good money is, because it has to be particularly high for me to risk that.
Okay, listeners, if you support the Patreon at a little bit more, if we can make enough money to bring Brandon back to Capricon next year, will Brandon agree to do a polar plunge?
It has to be more than just that. It has to be more than just bringing me back. You only need to pay for my medical bills and crap.
Okay, we need $2,500, and it'll bring Brandon here, and then I'll have $1,000 of spending money, or somewhere in that territory, and then he will do a polar plunge.
Then I'll think about it. You just call the price for me to think about it.
$3,000.
And we do
Spending money?
Well, no, 3,000 total, so you'll have 1,500 spending. Can we get you then? What's the number? Give me the number, Brandon. We're raising it.
You know what? 8,500, and we'll see how it goes.
If we can get 8,500, we're not gonna get that.
No,
much
never
money.
gonna exactly.
Yeah, but if you want to give us $8,500 specifically for Brandon O'Brien's Polar Bear Plunge charity, he will do it.
I'm so glad that's never gonna happen. But
just to be clear, we will do the nice version of that, not actual into a lake with ice. Just like a cold pool.
Still,
it won't be quite as cold.
You say, friend, you look outside. Okay, cool.
I'm just saying your heart won't stop. Yeah.
You don't know my heart, Sean?
Well,
my heart is
part
very
of that $8,500 will get your heart tested to make sure you don't have a heart condition.
Oh my God. And with that...
Awkward ending and scene.
Stay frosty.
Thank you, listeners.
If you want to support this show, you can go to patreon.com/skiffyandfanty or skiffyandfanty.com, our website, where you can get access to all of our fancy things. Our music comes from Holy Mole. You can support him and his work at patreon.com/holymole. Thank you for listening.